micro nano education for everyone.
So we've got one awesome talk today. Dr. Andrea Armani, who's from USC, is going to give us a presentation on what I think it'll be a combination of what her research is, but also opportunities that are available at USC for students in this group going forward. So, thanks, Dr. Armani, for coming today and presenting, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your work.
Thank you for that great introduction. So as Jared just mentioned, and I kind of want to take a step back. So I have 9 undergraduate students in my group, and since I've been at USC, I've had about 80 undergrads in my group. So I have a whole host. So I'm really hoping I can do a good job of connecting with all of you. I'm crossing my fingers on this, but if you have questions, please interrupt me. But this presentation isn't just about my research. It's really trying to give an overview of all the different types of nano research going on at USC. So it's a very big picture. Okay, so starting off, I really want to just start off with probably some fact-based data, which all of you are going to care about. It's probably the most important thing. So USC has, we're part of the family of places you can do research for. We already have something called a Summer Undergraduate Research Experience, or the USC Viterbi School of Engineering SURE program. The SURE program actually has several tracks. If you go to this website has all the information about the USC SURE program, including application dates and timing and all of that. Now, the cool thing about this is this year, we're going to have a specific track for PCC students. So there's the USC PCC SURE program track. Now, how you get access to that is obviously the application's not open yet, but you can be alerted when the application will become open by filling out this incredibly complex form that involves your name and your email. So all you have to do is put your name and your email here and hit submit. And when the application is open, you will get an alert. Okay, so that, if you have questions about how this process works, please ask. But we tried to make this as straightforward, easy, non-complicated as possible. Jared and I really teamed up to try to do this. Okay, I have 9 slides, and one of them is literally a picture of the building I work in. This is where I work. I am in this little office up here, which has the smallest windows. So we were talking earlier about how my office is like a little prison cell. I'm in like the little window one. So this is the USC, one of the buildings on the USC campus. The nice thing is it's downtown, so there's a lot of stuff around it. Again, normally, historically, we've just had the Viterbi SURE program. Now we have the PCC SURE program. USC Nanotech research covers what's called all levels of TRL, or technology readiness level research. So everything from basic science, which is viewed as like discovery and development, all the way through translation and entrepreneurship. So when Jared mentioned, if you take one thing out of a presentation, if you take anything out of this presentation, take out the idea of TRL level research. So in your future lives, if you go into research or engineering or any kind of industry, the terminology of what TRL stage is your technology at is a government level term. It's a research level term. It just describes how ready is your discovery to actually be used by real people in their home, on a plane, in any type of environment. So these stages are defined by the government, by like funding agencies, by accreditation agencies. most of the TRL 1 through 5, that's housed in universities. Usually kind of 5 through 9 happens in industry, but there's obviously some overlap because a university can't just like hand a technology to a company and hope for the best. So there's a lot of interaction and engagement of companies with universities to make sure that this handoff process happens well. And then even when you start thinking about doing system qualification, you want to make sure that a company isn't qualifying their own product, because that's a clear conflict of interest. Because if I'm a company and I'm qualifying my own product, I want it to get qualified, right? Like, for example, I would want my drug to get qualified and approved by the FDA. So that's where universities, again, can come back into this loop. So universities a lot of times are used for the system qualification phase. So, we're all a happy family in this. So the type of nanotech research that USC actually works on covers a lot of different areas. So a lot of different pictures here. So we work on kind of the term of improving health and wellness. So this are things like diagnostics or therapeutics, prosthetics, and all of this is actually happening in the engineering school. We also work on sustainable cities and coming up with new types of energy resources. And this is really housed in our civil engineering department and our environmental engineering department. And there's also kind of a new AI branch, something called Information Sciences Institute. And the ISI branch of the Viterbi School of Engineering, they're really working on coming up with new data science methods to further improve the data streams coming in that will inform new types of technology. So as an example, there's a ton of data coming in about CO2 levels in the atmosphere or the optimum positions where we should put solar cells. So then we can take that information and use that to develop better energy production sources or better ways of actually designing cars. So this handoff between the computer scientists and data scientists and the experimentalists is really important. And that kind of brings me to the middle picture of harnessing data science. So with all of this information, a lot of times it can become overwhelming. What do we do with it? So having data scientists across all fields work with experimentalists and basically teach experimentalists like what data science is actually out there and what you can actually do. Because, even experimentalists, like we hear these buzz terms like neural nets and machine learning algorithms, and it just seems like this magic black box. And we don't really know what the possibilities are, even though it sounds super cool. So having data scientists on campus actually hold workshops to try to simplify a lot of these technologies can be incredibly empowering. So there are a lot of workshops on campus led by a lot of computer scientists and data scientists to try to help inform a lot of the research thrusts. And then there's an entire advanced manufacturing center. And the first time I heard advanced manufacturing center, I was picturing like GM, like car manufacturing line. That's what came to my mind as an advanced manufacturing center. And then I was very confused because I couldn't figure out where this manufacturing line was because I didn't know what building it was in. And actually the Advanced Manufacturing Center is trying to come up with new ways of doing like 3D printing, but maybe either developing new materials that are laser responsive or new materials that are thermally responsive that, as they show in this picture, can have shapes that go out, but don't need support structures to have large shapes that go out. There was a recent company that actually was spun out of USC that's able to 3D print a rocket, which is incredible because usually you think of things being 3D printed that are made out of plastic and you can't launch a plastic rocket into space. So these types of advanced manufacturing is really coming up with a totally different way to manufacture, but doing it at the pilot scale. And then the last is, quantum materials and quantum systems. And when I was an undergrad, I used to think of, quantum materials and quantum systems as basically being high energy physics. everything quantum fell into that high energy physics bucket, which happened at like Argonne or Fermi Lab or like the Stanford Particle Accelerator. So they required, these locations that were, multiple football fields large. But now everything's kind of been shrunk, and you can study quantum mechanics on these little tiny circuits that are, smaller than a, Snickers bar. And you can really start trying to understand how individual atoms interact with each other, and how individual atoms, when they couple together, can be used in communications to make your computer more secure or to make your cell phone more secure, but also how they could be used to make new types of energy sources. So the reason why I put all of these things on the same slide, even though it seems like a lot of information for one slide, is really to show how all of these different technologies work together. So a researcher who's working on healthcare may occasionally go and talk to the quantum scientists. So a researcher doesn't just do healthcare research or just do quantum research. They may do some health research, but occasionally they're going to need to talk to the data scientists. Or the quantum researchers may occasionally need to talk to the advanced manufacturing researchers so that they can make their quantum systems more effectively or more efficiently. So it's really all about the teamwork. Everybody has an area of strength, but they definitely have breadth. And that, I think, is really the strength of USC, is because it is large. All of these areas are covered, and it's a very teamwork-based institution, which I found amazingly wonderful. And then just as an example of a couple kind of like flagship capabilities we have at USC that have just appeared in the last year. So it's a really exciting time to be here. So in kind of the last year, and I say 2022 because it's like January of 2022. So we just built a new nanofabrication facility. It actually opened June through August because it kind of has been phased. And what happens in a nanofabrication facility is you actually build or make nano devices. So when you think of like the processor inside your computer or inside your cell phone, or like the camera that's in your cell phone to take really high resolution pictures, those types of devices are actually made in a nanofabrication facility. So these are actually pictures of students doing research in our nanofab. We also just got a new low power MRI imaging system. So if you've ever had an MRI in a hospital, you've probably laid on this bed and gone and gotten a picture taken. Usually, you want to have the highest power MRI to get the highest resolution image. So usually you're looking for a couple Tesla MRI. But a new technology was recently developed that is able to get very high resolution images with under 1 Tesla. And this system just came out. And we have one of them actually in our building, like 5 floors below me, actually literally right below me. And it's really cool because it's going to enable people who perhaps have metallic things in their body to actually have images taken, which is now allowing like a whole new population of patients to be imaged and diagnostics. But we're beginning to do a lot of those tests now. And so we have 1 of 3 in the United States in our building on the engineering campus. And then there's going to be a sister system on the health science campus. So we can do preclinical imaging here in the engineering school. And then the clinical trials will actually be run on the health science campus. And then the last is a D-Wave quantum computer. So we actually have like a full-scale quantum computer here. So we have some researchers that are trying to develop new types of quantum chips. And then we also have the full-scale quantum system so we can compare the results.
Can you explain one more time, why do we need low power MRIs versus just the what's the regular MRI?
Yeah. So a regular MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. So magnetic resonance imaging is a way of taking pictures inside your body. So in a sense, it's like X-ray because you're able to take pictures inside your body without needing to like cut open your body. You can take large pictures through your body. You're also able to get 3D reconstructions So you can get a 3D reconstruction of your brain. But because we've been like gradually pushing to higher and higher and higher magnetic fields, and it does rely on basically spinning the magnetic moment of hydrogen atom in your blood, it can result in a subpopulation of patients getting really horrible headaches. So the idea of using a lower power MRI will first off eliminate headaches. It also, because it is a magnetic field, anybody who has any type of metallic or magnetic element in their body obviously cannot get MRI imaging because their magnetic element will be sucked out of their body. So that includes a lot of types of pacemakers, especially older pacemakers. But also, if you've been in the military, you have any kind of, even the potential of scrap metal in your body, you can't go into an MRI system. So there's like a non-trivial segment of the population that can't get MRI imaging. And MRI imaging is really powerful because you can do what's called a high contrast and low contrast MRI imaging, which is one of the most definitive ways to tell if what looks like a, lump or defect is actually cancerous or non-cancerous, because you can get blood flow. So it's a really high resolution, non-invasive, right? You don't have to do a biopsy. So you can get a lot of information without needing to put a needle somewhere. So it's especially powerful if you have a questionable substance in your brain where maybe you don't want to do a biopsy without at least doing that screening first. So that's why this is particularly powerful. And how this super specialized low power one works is it has improved focusing magnets. So it's able to focus better. So.
Yeah. No, thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Dominic, you have a question?
Quite have a question, but more so a comment, because I work in a neurooscillation lab, and we'll be using MRIs in an upcoming clinical trial.
Yep.
And so when you said low power MRI, you just blew my mind, because I've been screening all of these participants, and some I have to go through this really long list of things that they may possibly have in their body, because it's going to be part of the study. And so I am just like flabbergasted, because this could solve like 20% of my problems of just this week alone. And so like this is amazing.
No, it is. So we just installed it in, I think it was installed in June. I'm trying to remember like when they turned off the power to my building for like a day. I think it was in June that they installed it, and they turned it on. They did like, initial prelim turn on tests in like June and July, and then they have officially flipped the switch in August, and they're now using it. No, it's amazing. So basically the basement of my building is the nano fab facility, then a nano imaging facility with a bunch of like electron microscopes and optical microscopes for doing really high resolution imaging. And that's kind of in the middle. And then the other end is this low power MRI. And so it's like a bunch of toys. It's like adult science and engineering toys. So it's awesome to go down there. I'm in the best building. There are a lot of fun buildings.
I wanted to ask you about the quantum computer briefly. I don't know. It's a black box to me mostly, but I'm very curious.
It is.
What is it best used? Like, what is it best used for? How much faster is it, or could it be compared to the supercomputers we have out there and things like that? So, like any technology, right? Like, there are some applications where it's faster, and there are some applications where it's worse. So every new technology has its ideal application, and then, you can't throw it at everything. So quantum computers are really good when you have a well-defined problem and you just want it to like iterate on that well-defined problem. Then it's faster. Now, if you don't have a well-defined problem, that's where something like a neural net comes in, but quantum computers can't do neural nets. So a neural net, how I think about it,
if you're familiar with like the autonomous driving systems in cars, where they first have to be trained, and then, you know, like you give them a bunch of pictures and you're like, is there a dog here? Yes or no? And then that's like training the neural net or the machine learning system for your car. So you can't train a quantum computer. So quantum computers, they aren't compatible with that type of training. So if you just need it to do a calculation, awesome. If you need it to actually run a program or something like that, that's not its strength. So it's really more about like well-defined things. So quantum computers are awesome if you need it to like break a cryptographic code, which is why everybody's freaking out about quantum computers. And now like the next step is to figure out ways to develop cryptographic codes that can't be broken by quantum computers.
As a follow-up to that, then how does the blockchain technology hold up against the quantum computer for breaking it down?
For breaking it down? Yeah. So that's a really good question. I don't have a definitive answer to that because blockchain technology is not my area of expertise. But yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah. I work on developing an alternative to the blockchain technology. So the advantage of blockchain is also its disadvantage. Right. So blockchain is basically a distributed chain. My understanding is that the blocks, right, are distributed across multiple computers, which is great as long as you are always plugged into the cloud. But if you want to have like your computer not plugged into the cloud, you want to have it on like a closed network, then the blockchain concept falls apart. So I work on technology that can be on a closed network, that if in the hypothetical scenario, someone manages to hack into your closed network, your cryptographic technology still can stand up to that hack. But again, right, that's two different technologies, both valid, right? There's no magic bullet that's going to solve everything.
Thank you, Andrea. And Jim, did you want to ask your question or comment?
So I was just saying that there's also some talk about how quantum computers can be used for data security. I just had a question about that, because if you try to examine the calculations or intercept them, it basically destroys everything. But
yes, so there are some conversations about that, and what I work on is actually what's called photon pair generation. So if you have a laser, it goes through a fancy type of material. It will split that wavelength into two, but those two photons are actually coupled to each other. So they have they have the same properties. So you can think about them as like two twins. But if you pick off one of them and you start like eavesdropping or manipulating or listening, then it disturbs the other one. And you can tell that somebody's been monkeying around with your signal. So that's a super simplified way of describing photon pair entanglement. So I work on that technology, and you can create these little photon pair generator entanglement sensors on like a little tiny chip. So you can imagine once we actually get all this technology sorted out, you could like have it your Ethernet thing that you plug into your computer, and you could just have your little photon pair entanglement generator as like a little adapter on there. That's like my dream, like 10 years in the future. Don't ask to buy one right now. I can't. Right now it's like an optical table, but it exists, right? It's not truly a figment of my imagination. So that's a positive.
I have a question. So I'm the evaluator of the grant. So this is, I'm not one of the participants, but is what you're talking about something that could help prevent cyber attacks? Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not an IT person, but yeah.
No. Yeah. So that is the point. So part of my quantum cryptography, my photon quantum, is actually funded by the Navy. So for prevention. So exactly, it is exactly that.
I'm working on a project for skill standards for technicians in cyber.
Yep.
And technician level stuff. So, and one of the big things is having something that would just, because there's just so many ways in. So even just as a user, I'm constantly vigilant, and I still get attacked. And so, because I make mistakes, I just can't see all the little tricks they have.
Nope.
So this thing, I want that thing. And it doesn't have to be that small. I would take a big one. I'd put it in the corner of my room.
Right now.
Bigger than my house. Yeah, but
no,
thank you.
But that is one of the goals.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Armani.